right, looks like we got a fair amount of people here. So we will go ahead and get started. I will turn my video on just for a second. I'm actually watching my daughter's golf match, but I did want to just say hello and introduce myself. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sanjay Patel. I'm one of the associate program directors for the program here at Riverside. Clinically, I'm a hospitalist as APD. Help oversee a number of different initiatives and curricula, most specifically our point of care ultrasound procedural training, as well as being our inclusion champion for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I appreciate all of you joining today. Just a few housekeeping items. I am recording the meeting and we'll put this on a link that is publicly viewable, and happy to share that if you aren't able to catch some of what we were talking about tonight, or if you have to jump off, or if you have colleagues who weren't able to come and want to share it with them. So just agenda for tonight, I'm going to introduce our upcoming program director here shortly. I have a few slides just to talk a little bit about our program, and then we've got residents and some faculty members from our team who are joining us tonight. I'll have everybody introduce themselves and really spend the bulk of tonight on Q&A. We have some questions ready to go, but I also encourage you to use the chat to type in any questions that you might have, and we will try to make sure that we get those answered. I also put my email address in there, and I'll ask our team members to put their emails in there as well. Feel free to reach out to us if there are any questions that go unanswered or you have any other questions that do come up. I'm going to turn my video off now. I am going to introduce our current transitional and preliminary program director, Dr. Brian Zeno, who will be our upcoming program director for the 2026-2027 academic year and moving forward from there. So Dr. Zeno, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Sanjay. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, perfect. I did something new that everyone's screen is up top now. I've never done that before, so we'll try to muddle through here. But and Sanjay, you're still able to advance the slides even though you are on a golf course?
I am. Is this
awesome.
Working okay?
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna, so just to give you guys a little bit of background, this is my 11th year as our prelim and transitional program director. After 22 years of being program director, Tom Bowes, who's been my colleague for my entire career, which has been over 20 years here at Riverside, is stepping down, and I've been lucky enough to take over. Obviously that creates some anxiety for people, I think, when there's change. I will say one of the nice things about our program is that the two programs are intermingled heavily. So I've been heavily involved in the medicine program, and we overlap on really essentially all of the committees. And so there aren't going to be any major changes that are going to occur to the construct of the program, and really the heart and soul of the program. Although the program director, I like to think is important, it's actually not nearly as important as the faculty that we have and the residents that we have. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the Riverside in general. I think, and without knowing the backgrounds of everyone that's on here, I think if you have not had a chance to visit Riverside, if you have not had a chance to be here, I think one of the things that I want to at least try to convey is the size and breadth of the hospital. I think sometimes when people talk about a community program, they really underestimate the scope of what Riverside is. We are for internal medicine. You will have two components. One is going to be the inpatient component, which is 2/3 of your time. We have 6 large towers, and another one is currently being built. We ultimately are over 1,000 beds. And 85% of those are private rooms. We have a very large stroke and critical care presence. We have added bone marrow transplant. We have also, we're going to be adding solid organ transplant. We have a dedicated CICU with advanced mechanical support. So we essentially do basically everything that a large university, say, does, and I'll talk about some of the differences as we go along. And then our ambulatory clinic is where you would spend 1/3 of your time, depending on what track you would decide to do. And that really allows for the longitudinal outpatient care for our patients, which is an extremely important part of your internal medicine residency as well. That also allows you to rotate through a number of subspecialty medicine clinics, including hem-onc, rheumatology, endocrine, et cetera. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Sanjay. One of the other things I think that was really important to me when I was going through residency, and I think it's an important part of your journey as you become an attending as well, is transitioning from being a pure learner to somebody that is both a learner and educator. And so even though we do not we're what's considered an independent academic medical school, independent academic medical center, which means that we don't have a medical school attached to the walls of the hospital. We have 4 official affiliations, so OSU, Toledo, OU, and NeoMed all have dedicated 3rd-year rotation spots. We also have 4th-year rotation spots available to them as well. We also have a number of learners that come from all across the country that do 4th-year electives with us. And so one of the nice things about being a resident here is when you are on your core rotations, you will almost always have a medical student associated with you. So you get to make that transition from being a pure learner to somebody that's also learning how to educate the next generation. Go to the next slide. So I said we're a large hospital. I think one of the other things that makes us unique, and I think everything has pros and cons. I think this is a huge pro, and obviously I think I'll let the residents comment on this as we get into the Q&A. Despite being a very large hospital, we are a relatively small and close-knit GME department. We've grown over time for internal medicine. When I started, we were 12 residents per year. We've expanded to 18 per year for a total of 54. We used to have a larger prelim and transitional program. We had to give up some of those spots in order to increase our internal medicine program, but we still have 6 preliminary medicine and 12 transitional residents. And those really function side by side with our categorical interns throughout the course of the year before going on to radiology, derm, et cetera. We have 6 per year for family medicine. We have 6 per year for OB, 5 per year for surgery. We have a prelim surgery program. We do have a linked dermatology program. And we started a psychiatry program. It's been, I think this is our 5th or 6th year in that program. And then we do have a couple clinical fellowships as well. But what we don't have, I should mention, is we don't have a number of fellowships that are going to take away from some of your experience. So I think, and our residents can attest that from an autonomy standpoint, from a procedural standpoint, we certainly offer more than a large number of programs across the country. And I think that when residents leave here, they are ready to manage patients. They are very adept at procedures, and I think that is a huge bonus to us, because you're going to get a ton of different patient volume and breadth of different diseases and different patient backgrounds, and you are ready to be a practicing physician when you leave. I think some of the other strengths we have, we do have an extremely dedicated and experienced faculty. We have made some great additions over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, and as evidenced by some of the people that are on the call right now, both on the inpatient and outpatient side. I think the other thing that, and I think the residents can speak to this probably more in depth, is I do think one of the things that makes Riverside unique is the culture. I think that we are, it feels much more like a family. I think that, not to say that things are perfect, families have dysfunction too, but I think in general, what you will find is that people want one another to be successful. They want one another to achieve, and I think that they really they grow and will evolve as a class and as a program. And so who you are and your relationships when you start the program are going to be very, very different than when you leave. And you will have lifelong friends and colleagues as you move forward. And I think the thing that evidences that is that we have an incredibly high percentage of people that want to either stay at Riverside or they go away to fellowship and they want to come back and practice as a subspecialty attending at Riverside as well. From an academic standpoint, we have an exceptionally high board passage rate, and we have dedicated faculty that is the biggest part of their job is to make sure that you guys are successful on board passage. And I think one of the misconceptions that I think a lot of places will have, and you will hear this on the interview trail, is that people feel that they need to be at a large academic place to be successful in their match, and that's definitely not the case. So our match rates are exceptional across a large number of subspecialties. And then go to the next slide. So this is kind of a preview. So we obviously interview season is upon all of us. It's upon you guys. It's a nerve-wracking time, but it's super exciting as well. I think when we interview people, there have been people that have rotated with us, and that's kind of like a month-long interview. We're going to have both inpatient and virtual interviews. And I would say this is true whether you choose Riverside or you choose another place. If you think someplace is high on your list, I would encourage you to go and see that in some capacity in person. I think there's nothing like walking the halls, getting a feel for the program. I think that's paramount, because you're going to be spending the next 3 years or maybe longer of your life at that institution. And I think we get a great feel for the candidates as they interview, whether in person or virtually. I think it's tough to get a feel for the institution unless you're able to walk the halls. But this is a really fun time. I think everybody, what's interesting is everyone thinks that fourth year, everyone talks about how great fourth year is. It doesn't feel great right now. And it's a very, it can be nerve wracking, especially as you're starting this, as you're waiting to hear about interviews and things like that. But it's a really fun process, and enjoy the interview season, but definitely take it seriously, because it's and put your full effort into it, because it's going to shape not only the next 3 years of your life, but really your residency is going to be the most formative time that you are going to have. It's going to make the doctor that you are going to become, and so you want to choose a place that's going to be a good fit for you. And I think that's my last slide. Is that right, Sanjay?
That's all I have, unless there's anything else.
Perfect. Okay, good. No, good. That's all I'm going to talk about. So that was brief. I'm going to stay on in the background, but I'm going to turn my camera off, and I'll be available to answer questions as we go through. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat as well. But I think that the best way to really get a feel for this is to hear residents' experiences. The faculty are able to jump in and answer questions from a faculty perspective. This was brief. We have a much longer presentation that if you decide to interview with us, and actually we did something a little bit different this year. One of our graduating residents, he actually volunteered to do a presentation from his perspective on the things that were really important to him and what he got out of the residency. And so we're actually having him, it's going to be his presentation that gets sent out to everybody. He did an outstanding job, put a lot of effort into it. And so it will give you a much more in-depth idea about what the schedule looks like, what the overall experience of a resident looks like, what he took out of his experience here. And like I said, it's really in depth. He did a great job, and it will answer a lot of the questions that you may have as you go through the interview season. Okay, I'm going to stop there.
All right, thank you so much. And I can echo what Dr. Zeno said. I think that's why this town hall was important for us to put on, as a way to informally kind of have an opportunity to really talk to some of the folks in the program, kind of see what the program is like. You know, albeit very far distant from when I applied, but very important to be able to talk to people. And that's very different from looking at things on a website and not really knowing exactly what the program is like. So I do want to take a few minutes. I know we have Dr. Levecki is kind of co-piloting with me tonight as a faculty member, and then we have some of our chief residents on and some of our residents on. If we can just kind of go one by one, and each of you introduce yourselves to the group, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, great. I'll start. So I'm Rachel Levecki. I'm one of the APDs, and I'm one of the outpatient clinic attendings. Really happy to have you all here.
Us chiefs can probably go next. So my name is Danielle. I'm one of the 3 chief residents at Riverside. I'm the intern chief, and I'm currently applying cardiology. Welcome, everybody. Excited to chat with you all.
I'm Gianna.
My name's Cole.
No.
Sorry. I'm the one of the chief residents. I'm the upper level chief, and I'm currently applying for infectious disease. Welcome, everyone.
All right. I'm the third of the chiefs, so no one else should be trying to speak right now. But I'm Gianna. I'm the quality improvement chief resident. I'm applying pulmonary and critical care.
You guys hear me okay? Cool. All right. My name's Andrew. I'm one of the third year residents. And I am going to be a hospitalist here at Riverside next year.
Hey, I'm Isabella. I'm a PGY2 and I'm thinking about applying to infectious disease.
Hey everyone, my name is Kenzo. I'm a PGY2 as well, and I like cardiology, most likely applying next year.
Hey guys, my name's Wasim. I'm one of the categorical interns, and I'm still deciding what I want to do exactly.
Hi everyone, my name's Annie. I am also a categorical intern and also still deciding what I want to do with my life.
I'm Kenzie. I unfortunately logged off instead of hitting the speaker, but I'm a third year resident interested in Plum Crit.
All right, I think that's everybody. And Kenzie is going to be one of our chief residents next year. As we, like I said, please feel free to start typing in some questions into the chat. I know there was one which I did answer, but I can verbally make sure that we answer that. Our health system, unfortunately, does not sponsor J1 or H1B visas. But I do want to start with the question, which Dr. Zeno and Dr. Levecki can probably attest to, probably one of the most common questions that we get as interviewers, because it's so hard to really kind of define what the camaraderie and culture is like in the program. And I actually want to start with Annie and Wasim. You're both interns. You're the closest to the interview process. You were doing this less than a year ago. Curious to see from your perspective as you went through the interview process and as you've come into our program, what that has looked like for you.
I guess I can go first. So I actually, funny enough, I had like an in-person rotation. It was a little bit after I submitted my applications. And so I had like a kind of a cool experience where I did like my 4 weeks here as a med student and then got to like interview the last Friday. So that was like really cool to, to work with people and then interview with them by the end of it. So I think that's a really great experience. But even with that aside, I think the interview is very, very relaxed. It's very conversational. I think one of the nice things about this program is that they do offer in-person interviews, which very few, when I applied at least, offered. There was only one other program that even offered me the option to do in-person. And so I think definitely if you're interested, I would try, and you don't get a chance to rotate here, I would try my hardest to do like an in-person interview. You get to see the hospital, like meeting people in person is a lot nicer of an experience. And I think a lot of times it's easier to like the biggest thing with interviews you'll find is it's not really the content of what's discussed, it's how good of a quality that discussion is, and being in person gives you a better chance to like put your best foot forward and make a better connection.
To kind of echo Wasim, I didn't do an in-person interview. I also didn't do an audition rotation here. I interviewed online. And the first day of residency was the first day that I stepped foot into the hospital. But with that being said, like I could just feel through the interview process, like the family, like it was just radiating, the family vibes. Like everyone was so nice, so willing to help. Like I had contacted several people after the interview and talked to them, and everyone is always so friendly. They were so easy to get a hold of. I really enjoyed my interview here, and I could feel it even through the screen. Like this was going to be a great place. I knew it was somewhere that I was going to fit in, and I really, really had a good interview here. And the program is amazing. Like, I mean, I think I say it every day. I'm like, I have never felt more supported. I never feel like there's a question that I can't like ask. No one ever makes you feel, bad, whatever. All of the scary intern things, like it's scary, but like the support system here is amazing, and I could not ask for a better program or co-residents or attendings. Everyone is amazing.
Thank you both, and I hope that really helps in the dichotomy of learning about the program by rotating here, but also not really knowing much about the program, but that even in the virtual interview process, the culture and the camaraderie was able to come across such that this was someplace that residents wanted to come. Annie, you talked about support and really guidance, and I want to maybe pinpoint this question to our second year residents, Isabella and Kenzo. You've gone through intern year. Can you kind of describe what your experience was with that support, that mentorship? Really, intern year is a challenging year. I don't think anybody on the planet will tell you intern year is easy. So you really need a good support system, both colleagues and faculty. Curious what your experience was in terms of support, mentorship, guidance as you've kind of become more acclimated into the program.
I can go first. Before even starting my first real day working as an intern, I feel like the hospital did a super good job of making sure that I was adequately prepared for the ICU, which is, quote unquote, the scarce rotation, making sure that from a procedural standpoint, we're all checked off. And it was a very friendly way of assessing our procedural skills. And if we did not pass the first time, it's okay. Patient safety comes first, and they kind of held our hand through that process to make sure that we felt confident, at least more confident day one. Other things, so professionally, like I said earlier, I like cardiology, and I have found many mentors, both inpatient and outpatient setting, and everyone has been more than happy. Even attendings that I have never seen in person, I just reached out to them, and they're all willing to have me join on different projects, quality improvement projects, read my CV, help from doing things outside the hospital. And then we also have personal mentors. Mine is Dr. Hammond. We went to the same medical school, and I thought that was a perfect fit for me. I can pop into his office whenever I want. We can talk about the professional life, personal life, and he always gives me the time of day. And if he can, we always are able to schedule a meeting. The three chiefs here present, I feel super confident talking to them at any time. I have all their cell phone numbers. They're super nice. They always pick up, whether it's during professional hours or after. And I just feel like everyone is, like what Annie said, it's family. There's no hostility. Everyone's very open. We all get along. We all hang out inside the hospital, outside as well, whether it's happy hour, sporting events, or different networking events. So it's really nice.
Yeah, I agree with Kenzo. So at the beginning of during orientation week, you're assigned to a mentor, like advisor. So Dr. Patel is my advisor, and it's really good for you because you can talk to your advisor anytime you want, and also you have pretty frequent meetings with them throughout the year, and you can talk about your experience, not only professional part but also personal experience, and you can build a plan of what you want to improve in your professional life, what you want to do. So it's definitely a great experience to have a advisor. Yeah, and I feel like everyone's office door is open, so I can reach out to Dr. Bowles anytime I want, all the chiefs, Dr. Patel, Dr. Zeno as well now. So yeah, I feel like it's a very supportive environment.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. I promise you I didn't coach Isabella to say that. But no, I echo from a mentor standpoint. We want to be here as much as possible for anything that you need. Dr. Levecki, I don't know if you want to add anything from the mentor or advisor perspective.
Yeah, so I'm thankful that, you know, when the residents come through the clinic, I basically meet with my advisee every time they rotate through. So we're X plus Y, so the 4+2. So every 2 weeks when they come into the clinic, I get to have a little chat with my mentees. So it's a really good thing to touch base and kind of guide them in their next career decisions.
Thank you. I'll get give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up a question from the chat here. I did want to answer one very quickly. There was a question about whether our program accepts US IMGs into our program. And we do, in fact, do that. We just don't sponsor visas. Several of the residents here are international medical graduates. I know Kenzo and Isabella. I'm a faculty member, but I'm also an international medical graduate. So we are very much encourage and want to ensure that we as a program explore diversity in lots of different ways, including educational diversity. The other question I want to ask to the group, and I'm going to target this to Andrew and Kenzie, because your third years, you've kind of seen the evolution and the creation of this within our program. Does the program offer a categorical program offer hospitalist outpatient educational tracks? And kind of paired with that, how does Riverside help tailor your education to your career goals, such as hospitalist, which I know Andrew is going to be next year, and fellowship, which I know Kenzie you're interested in?
Yeah, so very broadly, your intern year kind of all looks the same. So you have some core rotations that you have to do, night flow, ICU nights, kind of things like that. Towards the end of your intern year, you'll meet with your predetermined mentor to kind of go through your future career goals. And if you're undecided, that's a conversation to have as well. But if at the end of your intern year, you're thinking, you know, I want more outpatient, I want to be more like Dr. Levecki, or if you want to be an inpatient hospitalist like Dr. Patel, or a specialist like Dr. Zeno, that's kind of where you would divide into the 3 tracks that we have. So the 3 main ones that we do, we have the, I guess there's 4, sorry. You have a research track, you have an outpatient track, a hospitalist, and then a fellowship track. And it doesn't really change like the basis of your educational experience. So like you still are the 4+2. You're still in the same program, you know, you're still doing most of the same things. It's just tailored like which experiences would be most beneficial for you as you go forward in your career. So I am interested in fellowship, but I'm actually in the research track because I have a sick passion for research. So that just means that some of my clinic days when we're in the 4+2 is dedicated towards research. But if you're in the fellowship track, you have more electives that are open to you, and your mentor guidance kind of changes a little bit because you're working more towards getting your fellowship application ready, doing mock interviews and things like that. But I'll let Andrew talk about the outpatient and hospitalist track.
Yeah, so I was as someone who was kind of part of both tracks, kind of at the same time. My initial plan was to do sports medicine when I started residency, and then really found a love and a passion for inpatient medicine. So as an intern, I was part of the outpatient care track, and that gives you some extra opportunities to do some outpatient time, even as an intern. Whether that's, rotating through some outpatient subspecialties like rheumatology, infectious disease, or working with some of the like Central Ohio primary care offices or outpatient Ohio Health offices. And then on the flip side of that, the hospitalist track kind of gives you that more traditional internal medicine pathway, where you are doing a lot more inpatient subspecialties as your electives. But honestly, the tracks in and of themselves are very fluid and have very subtle differences. So there's always the opportunity to, be crazy and switch up what your career goal is, halfway through your second year, like I did. So, there's always the opportunity for change.
Thank you both. And I'll just certainly add this is relatively new to our program within the last few years. So we are looking forward to continued enhancements of the track and continued growth and what that looks like in the future. And we certainly value our residents' input as they've gone through the program, as they've gone through the tracks. How can we make those more fruitful for their experience? How can we make that a better experience for our residents? I'm going to put our chiefs on the spot here for a sec, since you've gone through 3 years of residency. You've now got a little bit of a window of what the other side of the residency program looks like. But I'm curious to know from your perspectives, what sorts of changes and evolution have you seen in the program in your time here?
Yeah, I can go first. So I feel like we've seen lots of things change over our 3.5 years here at Riverside. And I think that's a testament to really, I guess, the overall program leadership and how responsive they are to the things that we say. And that varies from things that are super important. For example, there was concerns about the affordability of travel, specifically related to conferences. And we had options for ways that we could raise those concerns. So I was on the Graduate Medical Education Shared Governance Committee and was able to talk through that with our Director of Medical Education, which is a really cool opportunity. And based on that conversation in the meetings, we were able to actually increase our continuing medical education stipend, which was really cool for all of our residents and has created even more opportunities for our residents. So it can be as serious as that, or I think this year, something that's been really popular. I think it might have been Andrew actually who brought this up to the chiefs, but they spent a lot of money renovating one of our resident office spaces, the basement space, which was really neat. But we noticed that people weren't utilizing it as much as maybe we thought after the renovation. And Andrew brought up that the TV was one of the areas that was not renovated during that time. It was a little too small, a little dated. And so we were able to raise that concern to Dr. Bose, who listened. And he also listened to the fact that we were looking for a ping pong table in there. And those things have since been added. And I have seen the residents on all of their nights hanging out in that room. So it can be something as serious as, continuing medical education funding and stipends to, something still important, but a little less serious, and creating a better work environment for our workspaces. So I think that's really why we continue to see our program change and grow and improve every year.
Yeah, another thing that we have changed in the past 1 to 2 years is we are no longer doing 24-hour calls. So that was a big change that improves, resident well-being. And that was all from response to feedback as well.
Yeah, I think the thing I'll posit to, along the lines of what Cole said about, excuse me, about the program being very receptive to feedback, is even after the past 3 years, I have seen maybe there is one attending who's a one-off who may not have been the strongest teaching attending and is a great clinician, but does not teach whatsoever. When the program gets this feedback, they actually do advocate for moving that person either on reduced teaching time or having a discussion about, if you don't want to teach, we'll prioritize a different teaching attending to interact with the residents. And that has happened a couple times even in the past 3 years. So that is something that I would say is something that actively changes and is something that is a great testament to kind of the way the program receives feedback.
Yeah, the program is really, really responsive to resident feedback. I've seen that not just as a resident, but now as a chief resident too, and kind of taking part in some of those more larger systematic discussions. So that's something that our program does really well.
Thank you all, and certainly echo what you said, Danielle. We want to and hope to try to be as responsive as we can, and really want to gather what feedback we can from the residents, from the faculty members, understanding that a residency program is dynamic and needs to kind of change and adapt to the new generations of learners, the learning environment that is around us. So as I mentioned earlier, I have to hop off. I'm going to hand over the mic to Dr. Levecki. I think I saw some more questions in the chat. I will stay on. My email address is in there. But appreciate you all joining us tonight, and I'll let Dr. Levesque kind of host and finish out our session today.
Awesome. So yeah, we have some more questions in the chat. So I'll answer the one question. It was about how we, whether we view applicants that have had potentially gaps between their medical school and, you know, their application. And to answer it, yes, we do. We have a lot of residents that may have had, you know, non-traditional paths. And so we do view applicants that have had gaps between medical school and their application. So there's another question, and I'll give this to one of the second years if you guys want. So they ask, how are the house teams typically structured? How many people are usually assigned to each team during rounds? And on average, how many patients is each team member responsible for? And kind of building off of that, do you feel like you receive enough individualized teaching in the teams? So maybe if one of the PGY2s wants to chime in on that one.
I can answer that one. So currently I'm on a hospitalist service with Central Ohio Primary Care. I am the senior resident on that team. So it would consist of one PGY2 and then two PGY1s. And basically the PGY1s, they will split the list. They each have 7 patients. Since it is earlier on in the year, that will go to 8 patients each at some point, starting within the next month or two. And we also have, and on my personal team at this moment, 3 medical students. So it's a pretty decent team. So teaching is around the clock from the time that we got handoff from the night team, talking about the new patients to when we do rounds. So typically around 9:30 in the morning, we run the list with the attending, and we even have a pharmacist. So it's multidisciplinary rounds. And then for the whole afternoon, whether that's me doing chalk talks on the whiteboard and talking about inpatient diabetes management with my interns and the medical students, or even circling back with the attending and talking about other bread and butter internal medicine topics such as heart failure, atrial fibrillation, and whatnot. So the learning is nonstop to answer that question. But there's other hospitalist teams. Another one is with Med One, and that is also structured similarly. So 2 interns, 1 PGY2, and the 2 PGY1s will take on 8 patients each. And there is a unique teaching service called ClinMed, in which our outpatients, the patients that we have and that we take care of in the outpatient setting who get admitted, we take care of them. That team consists of 1 PGY3, 1 PGY2, and 2 PGY1s, and they will typically have medical students. That team, they also take care of any code blues that happen during their shift. And that team is unique because a lot of times they'll do bedside rounds, and they'll even use ultrasound, point of care ultrasound, and kind of correlate those imaging findings to what they discussed during rounds. And that teaching service also uses, or also has, a pharmacist who also helps with medical reconciliation and whatnot.
Awesome. And so maybe one of the third years could answer this question, just because you guys have seen probably quite a bit of changes in the didactics over the years. But can you tell a little bit more about what the didactics are like for the program, weekly, daily, faculty-led, resident-led, or mixed? So if you want to talk a little bit about maybe the inpatient and outpatient didactics.
So our inpatient didactics are typically every day. Sometimes at the start of a block, we'll have a Monday off just because we're trying to get acclimated to the new lay of the land. But we have a mix of didactic sessions. So it's not always just like the classic specialist who's coming in and giving a slideshow presentation on a topic within their specialty. But we have those. We have case conferences, which is resident or APD led, where we go through a case, kind of talk about the who's, the what's, the whys of the case, and any teaching points that the case kind of brings up. We have board review. So every Wednesday morning we meet and go through some of our board review questions. It's called MixApp. So we'll kind of go through some of the questions. We're in little groups, so we're able to talk about, the answers or why some of the answers are wrong. We have, chest x-ray conferences that have previously been led by Dr. Bose. We have EKG conferences that are led by one of our other outpatient providers, Dr. Mazenko. We have M&Ms, morbidity and mortality conferences, where we go through a case with some sort of learning point and kind of go through why this learning point and why it's important, and where we can take that learning point in the future. We also have fun didactics. So sometimes there are Fridays where it's not necessarily learning for educational scientific purposes, but in the first block of the year, we do a little like get to know the interns, kind of like a speed dating game. Last year we did a white elephant in the winter. We've done like a mini yoga session. So it's not always like a didactic just to sit and have someone talk at you, but we really try and adapt to the different ways that people learn.
Awesome. There was a question on here about what do most graduates go into, whether it's general practice, hospitalists, and whether or not they feel prepared. And Dr. Zeno kind of had answered that in the chat, that about 10% go into outpatient medicine, 35% become hospitalists, and about over half of them will go on to fellowship. And then there was another question about a minimum number of procedures is there a minimum number of procedures that residents are expected to do? And so I'll let some of the upper levels talk, or even the interns talk about their experience with getting procedures. But I can say they have gotten significantly more than I ever got in my residency, and I trained at a big university. So I think that they are all experts. They could all intubate me any day. So.
Yeah, I feel like we do have a lot of procedure experience. I've heard like some like university hospitals don't allow residents to intubate. I don't know how it was with you, Dr. Levesque, but we do intubate patients. As a second year, I am responsible for the airway doing a call, for example, but obviously we always have support. The attendings will be there. But answering the question, Caleb, and asking about like autonomy and opportunity in the ICU, we do have a lot of autonomy, a lot of opportunity. So in the ICU, basically we have like the 4 blue is just like our ICU. So it's divided in like blue and red side. So the blue side is usually like 1 PGY2, 2 interns, and the red side 1 PGY3 and 2 interns. So as a PGY2, you'll be responsible like leading your team and making decisions, obviously with assistant, like with the attending always there. But we do have a lot of autonomy and opportunities. We do have some fellows sometimes, but it does not like, you still have a lot of opportunities to do procedures and things like that.
Yeah, we even with we do have a fellow presence occasionally in our ICUs, but we always get first crack at procedures, and there is ample, and that's an understatement, ample opportunity for procedures. And as Kinsey or really any of the other residents can attest, the ICU is not my happy place, but you get very comfortable being able to do the procedures and function as a resident in the ICU. And obviously we have 24/7 ICU attending coverage, whether that's Dr. Zeno or anyone else that's part of the pulmonary group. So you always have someone to run ideas by, and you're never really left on alone on an island if you feel like you're in a tough spot.
Yeah, and to echo what Andrew was saying, I want to do ID, so procedures are not my like passion for sure. But to put some numbers on it, even for someone like myself who wasn't necessarily seeking out a bunch of procedures, I had more than 65 during my second year. That was like 2/3 of the way through my second year. So tons of opportunities if you want it, especially. And And even though it's not my passion, I do take a lot of pride in like being competent in these skills, and it's like a great skill to have. And there's a lot of learning from that as well.
I will briefly chime in as someone who procedures are my passion. On the higher end of it, like when I graduated, I had maybe close to 200 procedures over my time. And that's anything from arterial lines, intubations, chest tubes, CV, central lines, paracenteses, thoracenteses, and a couple chest tubes and bronchoscopies in there as well. But even if procedures aren't your thing too, and like you just don't want to do them, once you are comfortable like supervising an intern, you really don't need to do them unless you really want to. There are plenty of your co-residents who are probably procedurally inclined and like really want them, and that's kind of how I got my higher numbers. Is people just didn't want to do them, so I did them. And once you have your minimum and you have your basic level of competency and competence in being able to supervise, you don't have to feel stressed that like I need to do these procedures. Like that's the flip side of it as well.
Awesome. There was another question
Dr.
about.
Lebecky.
Oh yes,
Sorry,
go
one
ahead.
more thing about procedures. I was just gonna say, like, even as like, you know, an intern, and yes, there's a ton of procedures in the ICU. Like I still on the floor, like I've done, you know, like 4 thoracenteses and I've done a paracentesis. Like there's plenty of opportunity even outside of the ICU.
Yes, that's great. You do not want me putting a central line in anyone. Another question on here was whether there'll be opportunities for applicants to meet and talk with residents in person. If you interview with us, the residents are a part of our interview day. You're able to have lunch with them, and where there's no faculty or anyone. And again, it's not part of our interview process. So you're able to just talk very candidly with our residents about the program in the day-to-day. And we do have that, I believe, virtually as well. And so yes, that is part of our interview day. There was another question that I almost skipped, but I looked back and found it. That was from Justina, that says, what is something that you think your program excels at? So, anyone that's really passionate about answering this one.
Can kind of get started on this one. I think one thing that really stood out to me starting out is, intern year is really stressful, and you're all asking all these questions, especially me. Like people were asking about how does the hospital support you in deciding what you want for fellowship and not. So like coming in not knowing exactly what I wanted brings its own kind of level of stress when a lot of people are just like dead set, I want cardio or Pulm or ID or whatever it is. And so one thing that kind of helped out with that is being set up with a mentor from the residents. And so I kind of listed a couple of specialties, one of them being ID, and that's what I ended up getting set up with. And so already I've gotten like opportunity to be involved in QI projects and get started on like an actual like potential IRB thing. And so that's great. And even outside of that, others like with other specialties, I've had residents come up to me and invite me to like a cardiology dinner and talk about like, if you're interested in cardiology, here's X, Y, and Z thing that you should be doing, looking at. And so I really think not support from faculty, but also just from the residents. I think everyone's been so eager to help out. And I really think that's in like the 2-3-ish months, something that's really stood out to me and kind of helped me, even though I still don't know exactly where I'm going, but like there's a path forward, there's resources there. And so I think just in my short time here, that's something that's really stood out, was just how much people are willing to help, add you onto projects, help you find projects, help you learn when you're in like a rotation and you're kind of lost. And so
just to add on to that, sorry, I'm so sorry, Cade. It's the second time I've done this today. The resident buddy system was something that we started new this year, just because we have a ton of resources at Riverside, even though we're not an academic program, but we do have a lot of research opportunities. We see a lot of cool pathologies here at Riverside because we have a lot of specialists in-house, so we don't have to refer a lot of patients to other care sites to get the care that they need. So not only do we see cool pathologies, but we have a lot of attendings who are interested in like resident education, even if they're not really associated with our program. So we have a very interesting cardiology group. So a lot of the heart failure specialists, interventional cardiologists are interested in helping residents kind of explore opportunities within research for them. Pulm Crit, we have a ton of attendings. Dr. Zeno obviously has some buy-in for that as well, but we just have a lot of specialists who are interested in helping residents. So just because we're not an academic program doesn't mean we don't have some of those same opportunities. And I think that that's something that we are very fortunate to get to showcase.
And then, what I was going to say is I think that our program really excels at preparing you to be a good teacher. We're going to be lifelong learners, but I think that, looking back on intern year, Cole was my upper level in the ICU. And as a second year and even as a third year, I'm teaching the same topics that he was teaching me when I was an intern. So you just get very good at teaching and being able not only teach residents, but teach med students. And I think that's also very important, especially if your career goal is to continue to be involved in medical education.
I think
I
something
want to
else.
add one more thing.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry. Something else that this hospital and program really excels at is making sure that we pass the ABIM, which is the American Board of Internal Medicine. Like that was something that I really looked at when I was applying to different programs. And this hospital at Riverside Methodist really stood out because the last 8 years, the average is like 98%. That's like a huge flex. And that's something that I'm sure Dr. Zeno is super proud of. And, that's a test that we all have to take at the end of our training. So just being confident and knowing that, you're almost assuredly going to pass if you put in the work is really, really good.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add is that is a strength of not only our program, but Riverside as a whole, and really just speaks to our culture, is a very large amount of our residents after graduating stay at Riverside to work as a hospitalist or stay with the Ohio Health System to work as outpatient docs. And we have a lot of residents that will go off to fellowship at different sites, but come back to Riverside and work. And that really just not only speaks to the culture of the program in Riverside as a whole, but that really just, encourages attending buy-in for really wanting to support the residency program. They're very motivated to teach because, a lot of them were residents at Riverside themselves and just have a lot of respect for the program.
Awesome. So there's another question that maybe Dr. Zeno, since you've been around the longest, I'll have you answer. Somebody asked that what do the graduates that are going into like a general practice and more of a rural setting say about how prepared they are? Do they feel like Riverside's program offers a good sense of independence that would apply well in a rural setting? And they're talking outpatient, inpatient blended. So Dr. Zeno, since you hear more from the former residents than I have, because I'm a newer faculty member, what do you hear about their preparedness?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about the things that we excel in, I think that we excel in putting out outstanding practicing physicians. And so just from my background, I did medical school, the place where I trained at a number of smaller community hospitals than what Riverside, some decent size, but nothing as large as Riverside. And I was pretty sure I wanted to do an academic setting. So I did my residency and my fellowship at a very large academic center. I will say that from a residency exposure, what I was exposed to and what my autonomy was and what my comfort level was when I finished my residency was not nearly what our residents get to see. Now, the one part that I don't know that I can, and I've looked at some of the residents to answer, because you asked about the outpatient procedural experience. From an inpatient procedural experience, I think hands down, our residents get more autonomy and deal with sicker patients and are able to manage those on their own more so than I would say than the vast majority of places in the country. I would say that they are ready to be practicing physicians, and they are ready to do that without a lot of backup if they're going into a smaller place. In fact, it'll probably seem like they are over prepared for lower acuity things when they leave, because they get exposure to a lot of really sick people, have a ton of exposure to the procedures we already talked about in the inpatient setting. The one thing I don't have as much familiarity with, because I didn't do my training at Riverside, is what the outpatient procedural things look. So I'd looked at for maybe some of the residents that have been here for a couple of years to maybe answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, we as a program do far above what the required amount of outpatient time is for an internal medicine program. And that being said, I do think, you know, residency clinics are tough, but our clinic definitely prepares you to be able to, you know, function as an outpatient doctor if that's what you want to do. You know, our outpatient clinic days are usually half days where we're seeing 5 or 6 patients as third years. And when I was an intern, that seemed really daunting when I was seeing one patient every half day. And now you can kind of crank through patients really quickly. So I think by far and away our outpatient presence prepares you to be an outpatient doctor if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and as one of the attendings in the clinic, I can speak to, we don't do a ton of outpatient procedures. That being said, though, I think primary care in general is moving away from a lot of that, just because I think, you know, because of the busyness of a primary care clinic. But it's definitely something that we have had some interest in. Where, you know, Dr. Patel leads the POCUS curriculum, and so we're talking about how to integrate some of that more into the clinic. And I know there's some really ambitious residents that I think would love to have more procedures in the clinic, so it's definitely something we're working towards, but I would say it's not a major component in terms of procedures, but medical decision making and management of chronic diseases. I think our residents are very well trained from an outpatient standpoint. I'm being biased, of course. Another question was whether we participate in the signaling process, and if so, how is that considered during the application review? Yes, we do use signals, and really we use them mostly as a way to guide us in applicant interest and when we are offering initial interviews. So I guess maybe my last question, since we're going to be wrapping up here in a little bit, unless there's any others that I missed, maybe if we could have the interns, since you guys are the closest to this, if you could give advice to your pre-match self about choosing a program, what would you say in this program? Kind of what guided you here?
I can start. Sorry. Some advice that I would give to my pre-match self. Like, I was a little bit nervous about virtual interviews just because I was like, am I really going to be able to get the feel for the place and the people? And like, you totally will. Like, it'll radiate through the screen. Like, you'll be able to get all of, you know, the questions answered. You get the feel. You really do. Again, just kind of echoing off of what I said at the beginning of this meeting, like, this program is a family. I'm not from Ohio. I'm from Idaho, which is like so far away, but I feel so supported. Like, I know I can turn to literally anyone at any time and be like, medicine or not, like, you know, where should I go to? What's a good restaurant? Where should I go to eat? Like, what do we do for fun? You know, so this is just like such a family oriented place. I'm so happy to be here. Like, I can't put into words like how great my first few months of residency has been, and you know how supported I feel here.
Yeah, I think I mean everyone like choosing where you want to go is one of the more stressful parts. People don't really think about it until after they have an interview, because they're just thinking, where am I going to get interviews? Where am I going to get interviews? Am I going to get interviews? You will get interviews. You're going to be fine. But I think one piece of advice I can give is, I think like what Annie was saying about getting a feel for the program. I think that really is true. There were programs where I, you know, interviewed online and I talked to like my med student friends, and they were like, yeah, we got weird vibes, just like strange vibes from the residents or from, you know, the attending. So I think definitely vibes are something to keep an eye out for. I think some advice that I got early on, I think really helped, was to make like a list and kind of chart that, because you're gonna have a lot of interviews and stuff is gonna get jumbled together. So kind of writing out like be it an Excel sheet, being it like a paper, and keeping track of what stood out. These people seem very friendly. These people, I don't know, something was off about this, or they didn't offer enough stipend for research, or etc. I think keeping track of some of that stuff is really helpful. And then if you get the chance, I mean, it's still late now, but if you get the chance to rotate out of place, I think that can be really helpful. I think that was, in my case, like the biggest thing that, helped me um, choose this place, is rotating here, seeing the hospital, seeing the people. And so if you get that chance, if you get the chance to do an in-person interview, I am a big supporter of that. I know that's not feasible or financially realistic for everyone. And again, there's other ways to kind of tease out from people talking. I think most places, when you talk like one-on-one resident interviews, they give pretty honest answers. So kind of like asking the residents that are in the program when they give those spaces. And I mean, I think the residents here were all very upfront. They all seemed very happy, and so it's kind of how I ended up here.
Okay, sorry, I have one more piece of advice, and it's kind of silly. I recorded myself after every single interview, and I would just basically give like a one-line spiel of like, okay, I loved this, didn't love this, these are the vibes. Because when you go back to make your rank list, like, I can't remember what I was thinking in October. So I'd rewatch the video and be like, oh yeah, oh my God, I looked so happy like after this interview, and you can tell. And so that's one piece of advice that I would give.
Awesome. Dr. Zeno, or does anybody have any kind of closing comments before we wrap up?
I'll say something. First of all, I just appreciate everybody taking the time. I know this is not easy. Not only everyone from Riverside, but everybody that's on the call. It's a big decision. It's daunting at the front end of interviews, and every step. Fourth year doesn't feel awesome until you've matched, and then it really gets good for those few months. But it's a really important process. It's a growth process, and I think, as everybody said, you will get a feel. I mean, we think Riverside's great, the people that come here, I think, tend to be really good fits for that. But you need to find a place that fits well for you and what you ultimately want to do, and where you feel like you're going to have the most growth, because it will completely set the stage for the rest of your career as a physician. And this was a great turnout. We really appreciate the turnout. We'll make sure that we see everybody that's on here. So if if you guys have questions, our emails are out there. We would love to hear from you, and then we look forward to hearing from you guys during the interview season as well. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.